The year was 1900. Friedrich Nietzsche took his final breath in Weimar, Germany, but his true meath had come 11 years earlier, on that fateful January morning in 1889, when he collapsed in a Turin street embracing a beaten horse. Something far more significant than a man had perished. What died that day was the last barrier protecting humanity from a truth too devastating to confront. For 7 years after his mental collapse, Nietzsche's sister Elizabeth systematically censored and manipulated his final works. The Nietzsche archive became a factory of lies, carefully sanitizing his most dangerous ideas. Why? Because in those final lucid months before madness claimed him, Nietzsche had uncovered something that would have shaken civilization to its core. Most philosophy channels will tell you about God is dead and the Übermensch. But today, we go where others fear to tread, into Nietzsche's final, unpublished revelations. These weren't just philosophical concepts. They were spiritual atom bombs, capable of obliterating everything you think you know about morality, purpose, and human existence. Part 1. The Last Man's Dying World. Modern society has become exactly what Nietzsche predicted, and thus spoke Zarathustra, a breeding ground for what he called the last men. These are not primitive creatures, but rather the most advanced form of human decay. They are beings who have traded all grandeur of spirit for comfort, all passion for safety, all truth for convenience. The last man doesn't rebel against his chains. He polishes them and calls them jewelry. He spends his days chasing digital validation through social media, numbing himself with endless entertainment, worshiping at the altar of mindless consumption, fearing anything that might disturb his fragile illusions. Nietzsche saw this coming with terrifying clarity. They have their little pleasures for the day and their little pleasures for the night, but they respect health. This obsession with safety and comfort, Nietzsche warned, would become humanity's ultimate cage. But here's what most interpreters miss. Nietzsche didn't just predict the last man. He revealed how this creature would become the new ideal, the standard to which all would be forced to conform. Our modern world doesn't just tolerate mediocrity, it enforces it through educational systems that punish originality, corporate structures that reward conformity, social media algorithms that amplify banality, political systems that criminalize greatness. Part 2. The immoral core of morality. When Nietzsche declared God is dead, he wasn't celebrating. He was issuing a warning, because what comes after God isn't freedom, but something far more sinister. The entire moral framework of Western civilization, Nietzsche revealed, was never about truth or virtue, but about power and control. Christian morality in particular was what Nietzsche called slave morality, a brilliant psychological weapon created by the weak to enslave the strong. The concepts of good and evil were inverted to serve those who couldn't compete on equal terms. Strength became arrogance. Independence became selfishness. Excellence became privilege. Passion became danger. But Nietzsche's final, unpublished notes went even further. He uncovered how this moral system wasn't just flawed, it was actively engineered to breed guilt about natural human instincts, create dependence on external authority, destroy individual sovereignty, prevent the emergence of higher humans. The most shocking revelation: these moral systems continue operating today, long after their religious justifications have faded. Modern woke morality, Nietzsche would show, is just the latest mutation of the same slave morality, repackaged for secular audiences, but serving the same function: to punish excellence and reward mediocrity. Part 3. The Übermensch's impossible burden. The Übermensch wasn't just some philosophical ideal to Nietzsche. It was an evolutionary imperative. In his final sane months, Nietzsche became convinced that humanity stood at a crossroads. It would either give birth to something higher or descend into terminal decadence. But the true nature of the Übermensch has been systematically distorted. This wasn't about Ayn Rand-style selfishness, fascist notions of superiority, New Age actualization nonsense. The Übermensch, as Nietzsche conceived it in his final writings, was something far more radical, a being who could completely create their own values, endure the crushing weight of eternal recurrence, transform chaos into meaning through pure will, love fate, amor fati, unconditionally. Nietzsche's unpublished notes reveal terrifying criteria for this transformation. Total abandonment of herd morality, willingness to stand completely alone, capacity to embrace suffering as sacred, absolute responsibility for creating meaning. Part 4. The final secret, eternal recurrence. Most interpretations of eternal recurrence get it completely wrong. This wasn't some poetic metaphor or thought experiment. For Nietzsche in his final months, this was the ultimate test of spiritual strength, what he called the heaviest weight. Imagine being told that every moment of your life, every joy, every pain, every humiliation, every triumph, will repeat exactly the same way for eternity. Not just once, but infinite times. The same choices, the same mistakes, the same heartbreaks, forever. Nietzsche's secret question wasn't, is this true? But can you bear it if it were true? Most people's reaction to this idea reveals their spiritual condition. The weak despair. The average distract themselves. The strong embrace it. But Nietzsche's final, most devastating insight was this: eternal recurrence isn't just a test, it's the key to transformation. Only by fully embracing that every moment will repeat eternally can one achieve absolute presence in each moment, complete responsibility for every action, total love of one's fate, the power to transform suffering into meaning. The choice he left us. Nietzsche's final writings suggest he knew his madness was coming. In his last sane letter to Jacob Burckhardt, he signed as Dionysus and the Crucified, a symbolic fusion of all his ideas. This wasn't insanity, but a final message that the path to transcendence requires embracing both the creative chaos of Dionysus and the suffering of the Crucified. The world wasn't ready for Nietzsche's final revelations in 1889. But now, as we stand at the brink of societal collapse, spiritual emptiness, and technological dehumanization, his warnings have never been more urgent. This isn't just about understanding Nietzsche. It's about answering the question he left for each of us. Will you remain among the last men, polishing your chains? Or will you take up the impossible burden of becoming? If this exploration of Nietzsche's final truths resonated with you, smash that like button and subscribe. But more importantly, share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Because in a world of last men, those who dare to become must find each other. Drop a comment below with your thoughts on eternal recurrence. Could you bear it? The most insightful responses will be featured in our next video. Remember, Nietzsche didn't write for everyone. He wrote for those few who can hear the call. If you're still watching at this point, he was writing for you.